From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Welcome to another episode of Big Wave Boxing with your host, the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. And yes, this is Las Vegas behind me, live from Caesar's Palace. I am interviewing the one and only Ryan O'Hara from Ring Magazine. We're sort of on the same team. I'm a contributor for Ring Magazine as well, too, Ring TV. And, it's a family thing today, I guess. So we're going to go ahead and talk some good stuff for the boxing world. We got some great events coming up as well, too. Ryan, how you doing today, brother?
Doing great. How about you, man? Just got off work. Got my overnight job done. Got plenty of stories done too. So it's gonna be a busy day. How have you been?
Well, I'm grinding and trying to grind as hard as you are. I just got done doing the other show earlier, the daily show, primetime, everything like that. And we are going to be, I'm waiting on to get things situated tomorrow for NFL Bet Exchange. So it's busy. I got articles to write as well, too, for Vegas Sports Daily. So, yeah, I know the feeling. But see, you grinding harder than me because, boy, you going to the 9 to 5, the second 9 to 5, and then you putting out the articles and then fly cross country. That is a man's man. Much power to you, Ryan, man. Keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Thank you, man. I don't know if I'm grinding as much as you, but the coffee substances certainly do the job.
Hey, coffee is the earth's nectar.
Very true. Very true. Without it, I would be in a lot of trouble.
They created coffee to make sure that you can finish the day. All right, Ryan, how did you get your start in the business, in the boxing biz?
Believe it or not, it was an accident. I always wanted to be a NASCAR reporter. I still do iRacing. So you guys will probably see me make iRacing posts a lot. So I do professional sim racing. I race in A class, which is like the highest you can go in iRacing. So I've raced Bobby Labonte, Jeff Gordon, those type of drivers. I race them every now and then. I got 41 wins. But, I kind of got sick of NASCAR with the playoffs and all these other gimmicks. And I had always been a boxing fan too. So, when I was a kid, I watched the pay-per-view at we had some Chinese family friends that owned a restaurant called Bamboo Garden. And I watched the Lennox Lewis Vitaly Klitschko fight. The family, they were big Klitschko fans. So we got to watch that fight. And I'd also watched the De La Hoya Mosley fight. Oscar De La Hoya was my favorite fighter. The De La Hoya Trinidad fight. Basically, I was just De La Hoya all the way. I had no clue. I knew who Mike Tyson was, but I just didn't really care about anyone other than Oscar. But as I started to mature, I started to look at other fighters and whatnot, and I was just a fan. But in 2014, I decided, why not? I have writing skills. Let's put out a message on LinkedIn and see who I can connect with. And within about 15, 20 minutes, I actually got a message from Nestor Gibbs at the Boxing Voice, who ended up getting me my first shot. And it ended up becoming, a career of mine on accident. I actually went to school for human security, global security and intelligence studies, got my master's degree even, but I'm a boxing reporter. So, boxing, kind of like Michelle Rosado, being an engineer and switching to boxing. And I went from security to boxing.
Hey man, it's always good to get that higher learning as well too. If this is now, but the future it will be different. We both know this. And big shout out to Nestor Gibbs as well too. I was on the Boxing Voice podcast about a year ago, pretty much talking bets and everything, and we were talking about the Herd and J-Rock fight and everything like that. And I was really, really off that night. So pretty much up for that one because I thought J Herd was going to have himself a night that night. He actually wound up getting beat. and we, resoundingly beat by a lot of people's cards as well too. So, hey, it is what it is. But J-Rock did cash out a plus 550 for the backers for him as well too that night. So I know they're still happy about that one.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And I remember you asked me earlier, what's the first fight I covered? It was actually the Andy Ruiz Sergey Lukovic fight. And I remember not knowing anything about Andy Ruiz. I'll be honest with you. I was I was still learning. I was looking up every fighter and just trying to get accustomed to it. My first thought about Andy Ruiz is like, wow, this dude is incredibly fat, but he's got pretty fast hands for a big guy. I'll give him that. And he ends up becoming the heavyweight champion of the world. So that's one of the more incredible things about boxing is that anyone can become a champion on any given day, no matter where they're from, as long as as they put their heart and mind to what their goal is, and he did it.
What's so amazing about Andy Ruiz's story of winning that championship? I was actually covering the media week in Los Angeles that week when Danny Garcia fought Granados and all that good stuff. And Andy came in, and a lot of people were excited to see Andy and all that good stuff. You know what I mean? Because he hadn't fought for a while, things of that nature. And I remember interviewing him, and I said that it would be a pretty special thing if you were able to get to that heavyweight fight and everything like that. So is that what you're looking forward to next? And he said, yeah, man, hell yeah. And so he goes in there, he beats Dimitrenko, finishes the fight in 5 rounds, all that good stuff. And you know what? He had probably the most coverage that night right after the fight. A lot of people were back there and everybody wanted to get a word with Andy. Andy was good at getting everybody a word and everything. Then about a week or two later, we get the situation with Big Baby Miller, and he has a steroid thing. And then Andy sends a DM to Eddie Hearn and says, hey, I'm your guy. And, nobody really thought too much of it. Andy gets the shot and everything like that. And I'm excited because I was already booked to go to New York City to watch Anthony Joshua and his American takeover. They had the whole Beatles theme and everything like that behind him, that it was going to be a big, big, big show, all that good stuff. And it was amazing being there that night for that upset because, man, I just can't explain it still. It's been a year later, and OMG. It was just a crazy night because when Andy got knocked down and then he got back up, like as I told Ray on the show last week, he said all or nothing. And boy, oh boy, all or nothing, baby. And he went ahead and he finished the job off that night. And the greatest thing about that is Andy wore the same uniform that the Knicks had gifted to him a day or two before that. So it was really cool to see him walk in there with the New York jersey. And, it's big Mexico and everything for him, but I knew what he was doing that night. He was representing for the USA as well, too. So that was pretty cool. And it was a very, very great, fun night. It was a emotional night for his family as well, too. It was great to see all the big smiles on their faces as well, too, because people have to understand that was the only people that pulled up with Andy Ruiz was his family. And Sam Watson. And I always say Sam was the good luck charm because it was funny. About a week before that, I saw a video of Sam Watson in the locker room of Evander Holyfield right before he went ahead and right before Evander Holyfield beat Mike Tyson as a 25-1 dog. So just know, heavyweights, have Sam Watson in your locker room before a fight, you'll win.
Man, I knew Sam Watson's has been in the business a long time. I didn't know he was in there that long. I was 3 years old when Tyson Holyfield happened. So yeah, that's something to think about.
Okay, so it is. So pretty much, that's a good little story right there. But let's go ahead and keep this ball rolling. And we were talking off air. We were talking about Crawford and the Top Rank situation. What are your thoughts on what's going on right now with Bud Crawford, and how do you feel? Where do you see his future going?
Well, I don't see his future with Top Rank, that's for sure. So, Top Rank signed Terence Crawford in 2011, knowing very well that he's not a talker, and he's not someone that is a fan of the promotional aspects of boxing, and that's okay. Not everyone is going to have a socialite personality. Not everyone is going to want to be a superstar. Terence Crawford wants to fight, and that's it. And Top Rank has had advance notice that it's going to take a little bit of work to build his name, because his personality is he's just not the type that's going to go out and sugarcoat things, like a promoter would do. And if you take a look at two all-time great fighters, Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather Jr. were both with Top Rank and both left to start their own companies, Golden Boy Promotions and Mayweather Promotions, respectively. Two that stand as some of the most respected in the business. Now, Terence is never going to be one of those guys. In fact, people need to realize that promotional politics, play a huge part in the sport, and that's something that Terence is not a fan of, and that's exactly what he doesn't want to become. So if you want to take a look at Crawford's resume, go back to the Crawford Postol fight that shouldn't have been on pay-per-view. Crawford Khan shouldn't have been on pay-per-view. They haven't been giving him the fights that are gonna give him that the household name status. Now, for Arum to come out and say that, oh, the fans don't support Terence Crawford. Well, the TV ratings for Crawford Brooks say otherwise. I mean, that was the most watched fight on cable TV, I believe, since January of 2019. So it's obvious that people care and that people know who Crawford is. Now imagine if he actually fought somebody that was actually going to challenge him, like Errol Spence, perhaps, Jenny Garcia, Dennis Ugas, Sergey Lipinets, somebody with a name. Now, yeah, a Kell Brook fight would have been huge 4 years ago. But after the Triple G fight, let's be real, Kell Brook, that fight ruined him. I mean, his punch resistance is just not the same. Now, yeah, he had a good couple of rounds against Bud, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time. As soon as he got a clean shot, that is when Kell would be in trouble, and that's exactly what happened, getting that lead right hand, which a lot of people thought was a counter. It actually wasn't. Terence just simply beat him to the punch, if you look really closely at the tape. But trying not to go on a tangent here, but another thing that's a big problem for Top Rank is that they don't have any welterweights in their stable. If you take a look at their stable right now, they have 10 welterweights. 60% of them have less than 10 fights in their resume. Those guys are not going to fight Crawford. Now, to add insult to injury, Egidijus Kabaliauskas is the second best welterweight in their stable, and Crawford already knocked him out. So Top Rank just doesn't have anybody in their stable. Bob Arum's coming out and saying, well, I'm not going to waste any more money, on Terence Crawford. I'm not going to go bankrupt on Terence Crawford. Look, if you're worried about going bankrupt and you want Bud to quote unquote self-promote, knowing very well for the last several years that this is not what he's good at. That's like asking Bob to fight. He's 88 years old. That's stupid. Why the heck would I do that? Well, same thing in this case. Why would you ask Bud to promote knowing that that's not his strong suit? His strong suit's fighting. He's 37-0. It's just mind-boggling the way that Crawford's being treated, and I think that he would be treated better at PBC, where you have basically everybody that Crawford would want to face, and that would give him a challenge. Like I said, Ugas, Lipinets, Pacquiao did a one-off with PBC with Adrian Broner. Now he can come back and go for the right deals, like the Keith Thurman fight. So I think Crawford would be better off at PBC. I've heard some people say he should just be his own promoter, but like I said, he's not a promoter, so he's going to need that help. He's going to need that promoter to go out there and support him. But for some reason, Bob doesn't want to do it for him anymore. So if that's the case, if Crawford has enough money, I'd pay off the rest of my contract today and say, adios, amigo. Let's go to PBC. Let's get these big fights, and then Terence can show the world who is truly the best welterweight on the planet.
Well, my thing is about the Crawford Top Rank situation is I just really feel that Bob Arum feels like he's a bit too busy to really promote the best boxer on his roster. And I think that and eventually Teofimo is going to run into the same issues as well, too, later on down the road. Because the thing is, Bob knows that he was supposed to make these big fights for Terence Crawford. He's at fault for that because the thing is, I don't feel like he tried hard enough. I come from the days where when HBO was in charge, when HBO and Showtime actually used to do it as well too before Steven Espinosa. But Steven Espinosa does a brilliant and a great job at Showtime. But when you had the network come in and they had the network money in place, then that means that, okay, all right, we'll go ahead and get this thing on. There was no such thing as crossing the street. When I heard about that BS, I just was like, this isn't prize fighting anymore. This is almost has turned into a wrestling fashion in a sense where we got all these different brands and different groups that you can go to. Well, you got BBC on Fox and Showtime, and then you got Top Rank on ESPN, then Matchrooms on DAZN. And, you know, we got all these different networks everybody comes on, and everybody has to fight everybody in their stable. No, the way you make money in boxing is you have the best of the best fight each other. It's not that hard. The Crawford-Spence fight is right now, it had to get cooked a little bit more, in my opinion. It had to stay in the oven just a little bit longer. But the thing is, 2021 is the time for both of these guys to make it happen. It doesn't matter what happens in the Spence fight, in my opinion, with Danny Garcia, they still can make that fight happen, because if you lose one, that means absolutely nothing. That just is more motivation for the next fight. Now, that's where we go with casual fans that want to walk away because they don't see an undefeated record on a guy's resume anymore. But that's absolutely stupid. You know what I mean? Look at J-Rock. He had a loss on his record. They didn't take him as seriously when he went into the Jay Hurd fight, and boom, he becomes the undisputed champion. So I feel really that this Errol Spence Crawford fight has to happen, and that's the way that Bob Arum's going to make some money off of Bud Crawford. Because the thing is, it's like you can't keep playing the game saying that, you know, they want to do it, but they don't want to do it. They do want to do it. It's just that you have to make sure that the money is right. I know it has to be a 50-50 split, but I know one thing, though. If they were to say, so he can prove his point that, you know, pretty much he's the best in the world. And once he's able to do that, then he can get the lion's share of whatever he wants. And so pretty much that's where what my adage is with the whole Terence Crawford top rank situation. I feel like they just have taken advantage of a golden goose, and they really are just, you know, pocketing off they're just trying to pad his record, and you don't need to do that with Bud Spence. But he's already a special fighter as is. And so I think you need to go ahead and make this fight happen. You know what I mean? You got to make this fight happen, because now the Danny Garcia Spence fight has happened. This is going to be happening. That is a major welterweight fight, and I feel like this is almost like a Final Four in a sense. Now, Kell Brook isn't anybody who you would have put in that Final Four, but this was the last person he needed to go ahead and prove to you guys that this is not a this isn't Bob throwing in the bum of the week. He just annihilated a guy who was seen as one of the top welterweights for some time, and went up and fought against some really great fighters after that as well, too. So that's my whole 2 cents on Top Rank and Bud Crawford and everything like that.
Another point I want to make is that, yeah, it was reported that, you know, a fight between Crawford and Pacquiao was signed, and from The Athletic, and that Manny, you know, agreed to $23.5 million. But, you know, the fight fell through because of COVID-19. Now it's pretty much being used as an excuse. Well, COVID did this, COVID did that. They should have been looking for bigger fights for Crawford years before a global pandemic came into play. So I don't want to hear any excuses about a global pandemic. They should have been making these fights beforehand. Look at Canelo Alvarez. He's 3 years younger than Terence, has had a significantly higher amount of top opposition. I think he won his first title when he was 21 years old. 2 years later, you know, he had his big fights with Austin Trout and Floyd Mayweather. Crawford won his first fight at 26. He's 33 now. You know, what's the excuse? It's been 7 years. It's well past time to get him a big fight.
Yep, and I totally agree with that. So as we move forward, let's go ahead. You just brought him up as well too, and he is seen as the pound for pound king, and there is really no doubt about that, because he's taken on everybody, and as they always say when I go cover these Canelo events, he's always looking for another challenge. Canelo Kellum Smith This is going to be a box office fight. The WBA and Ring Magazine super middleweight belt on the line. This fight was actually in the talks right after he beat Rocky in New York. I remember, because they were like, "Whoa, get Kevin Smith next." You know what I mean? And that didn't happen because he had to fight Ryder and all that stuff. And and now we're letting that fight happen. I feel like that's the right fight to happen for Canelo at this point, because it is a fight that's another fight that's a challenge in a sense. Now, I would say I'm a big Caleb Plant fan, and it was crazy to see that he was actually selected first to maybe fight Canelo as well too. But I think that's a matchup that can take that can be a 2021 situation. I think Caleb Plant should get another fight in before he would fight a Canelo. But this fight right here, Kevin Smith is ready to step up and have this fight with Canelo. It's going to be huge because it sounds like it's going to be in Texas from what I'm hearing. So that means it's going to be real close to Mexico as well too. And so this is going to be a huge fight in a sense to where the viewership is going to be there. I don't know if there's going to be an audience there, but I know that the ramifications around the audience that's going to be watching on DAZN and all these different outlets, it's going to be huge. And Canelo always brings the show. It does not matter who he's fighting. It's Canelo. He's here. Let's see how it goes. But thing is, once again, Canelo is taking on the best challenge of all these champions, and that's why he gets to stay at pound for pound. And we shouldn't even argue about this thing. Who cares what happened with the salty test before the Triple G fight? Things like that occur. He bounced back. Most guys who get caught up with dirty testing, they'll never be the same again. Canelo came back better than ever. So my thing is like this: Canelo, Callum Smith will probably wind up being the biggest box office fight of the year, just simply because it's Canelo.
Absolutely. And Callum Smith, struggled against John Ryder. Most people thought that he lost that fight. But on top of that, he has the WBA Super and the ring titles. So it carries a lot of weight, because the ring title, if you win the ring championship, you are seen as the top fighter in the division. So for Canelo to step up against Callum Smith, a guy who's 6'3", this is a really, really tall fighter. I actually see the fight going in Canelo's favor rather one-sided. I think this is actually going to be, kind of I wouldn't say an easy fight for Canelo, but I think he's going to win comfortably. I think the real challenge for him is going to be Caleb Plant. I was actually really surprised that they mentioned him first too. Unfortunately, they couldn't come up with a deal. But like you said, I think, Caleb will get a fight under his belt. Maybe the WBC will mandate that Avni Yildirim and Plant fight for the vacant title. So if Plant wins that fight, he becomes a unified champion. Canelo is going to be technically he's going to be a unified champion with the ring and WBA, and that's going to be a big fight in 2021. But like you said, Canelo is always looking to step up against bigger opponents, and here it is. And on top of that, it's a revenge fight for Callum Smith, because his older brother Liam got knocked out by Alvarez in September of 2016 when Smith held the WBC title at 154. So. I'm really looking forward to the fight. I think it's rather ironic that it's back into DAZN after all the litigation and fighting. But it also wouldn't surprise me if we see a lawsuit from Golden Boy against DAZN for what happened, because Canelo was with Golden Boy and DAZN, and then what DAZN takes Canelo back, but doesn't bring Golden Boy along. I think that's kind of funny, to say the least. But I'm just really excited for the fight.
Well, I'm thinking to myself that what Canelo's doing right here is he's doing something kind of unprecedented at this time. He's gonna fight He's gonna fight this DAZN fight, but next year, all options are open. We could possibly catch him on Showtime. And I think he's going to be coming in here as almost a self-entity in itself. He's going to be his own promoter, and he can make deals happen with the Matchrooms of the world, the PBCs of the world, the Top Ranks of the world. And I think that he just wanted that independence to where nobody can hold me back from fighting the best. And this is my last point about why I feel like he wants to really fight Caleb Plant, because I think he wants to right that wrong what happened with Floyd Mayweather. And the thing is, Caleb moves and boxes almost carbon copy to what Floyd does. You know, the one of one, and you know, being able to move around and hit and not be hit. You know, and I think he wants that challenge. He wants that test. He wants to see how his footwork has improved over the years, and will it work against a guy like a Caleb Plant? And that's how I'm feeling why he wants that fight so bad. And I think that's an absolutely amazing thought that you have for yourself. That's how great ones stay great. That's how legends are called legends. You know what I mean? A lot of these guys think that they're legends, but they're nowhere near it in this new wave of boxing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, I've been high on Caleb Plant for years. Ever since I watched some of his early fights. I'm like, this kid is gonna be something special. I was at the Lomachenko Linares fight, and someone brought up, oh man, I'm not sure. It was actually a friend of mine. His brother is actually the strength and conditioning coach for Lomachenko, and we were talking, and he's like, well, I don't know, about Caleb Plant. I don't know what he has in him. I was like, he's gonna be a great fighter. He's like, you really think so? I'm like, yeah, I think so. Now, when it comes to this, maybe he's taking this fight with Canelo too soon. We'll have to see. But if the Uzcategui fight was any indication, Caleb was coming off a year layoff from shoulder surgery and dominated him. Got cut from a really bad headbutt early, fought through it, still won the fight pretty comfortably despite having that bad cut. So that Caleb has a good heart in him. We haven't seen him against a huge puncher. Canelo would be his biggest test. But I'll tell you what, I think Caleb is going to be an even more challenging opponent than Callum Smith. I think Caleb Plant has a better chance of winning against Canelo than Smith does. But that's just me. And
there it is. All right. And a little too spicy for the pepper, so we're gonna move on a little bit. I know that pretty much the Canelo fanatics is like, nobody can beat Canelo.
Yeah. I'm just telling you, I mean, it's not a ding against Canelo. Everybody has a fighter that's going to give them. You saw Muhammad Ali and Ken Norton, Oscar De La Hoya. Had Pernell Whitaker. Pernell Whitaker had him spinning in circles. But the issue with Pernell is that he didn't do enough offensively. Yeah, he was dazzling defensively, but it was kind of like the Lara fight in Canelo. Lara was doing his defensive moves. And, he was doing a little bit of offense, but in the second half of the fight, Canelo was doing more of the offense, landing more to the body, and the judges rewarded Canelo. This is what happens. I could have seen that fight going to Lara too, but you got to admit, Lara could have done a little bit more. It's just how it works.
I was a little mad that night because I had Lara in that fight, and Lara actually, I felt like he did win 115, 113. But you know what? It is what it is at the end of the day. They made the right decision. You know what I mean? It could have went either way, but that was just me. But let's
9-3, 117, 111. Nah. But it was close.
Right. But the body shots were the difference, though. When you bring back the tape, the body shots were the difference for Canelo to give him that advantage. Now, let's go ahead and talk about an event that's going to be happening in the next 2 weeks. That's going to be the Errol Spence Jr. versus Danny Swift Garcia. And boy, oh boy, Philadelphia versus Dallas. Man, oh man, the NFC East matchup here that we got going on. I feel like this one right here is going to be the best fight at the 147 division that we've had in a while. Like, seriously, this is a really good fight between two guys that are in the prime of their careers. You have Danny Garcia, the former 140 kingpin, former reign champion at the 140 as well, too. The lineal champion as well, too. People always forget that as well. But, yeah, Danny was the lineal champion at 140, and he never got beat at 140 either. And he moved up to 147. He took on all the big fights that you're supposed to take on. He didn't duck and dodge Porter or Thurman in their primes at all. He fought them prime for prime. And you know what? He should be 1-for-1 in that situation, but judges do what they do at the end of the day. But he could have easily won both of those fights as well, too. There's a lot of people that had him winning both of those fights. So Danny Garcia, to me, presents the toughest test Errol Spence is going to ever have in the ring. I know people thought it was going to be that Danny Garcia was, but come on, we all knew that at the end of the day, he was fighting against a guy that was naturally great at 135, and he's fighting his first fight at 147 against the guy that they see as the future of 147. Of course, it's going to set up a bridge for him to be a pay-per-view star. You know what I mean? So that was almost like, hello, this is Errol Spence. And you guys already know Mikey Garcia. Let's go ahead and get it on. They gave him a big name for his first pay-per-view, just like they did with Floyd when they gave him Arturo Gatti. So, but Gatti and I would say Gatti and Garcia are two different guys. Gatti was was to me like the elite club fighter. Now, Mikey, on the other hand, is a great technician. It's just that the athleticism and the length of Spence was too much for him. That's just that simple. So with this fight right here, Danny Garcia has put in his work. He's putting his rounds. And then he has that devastating hook as well, too, that can come at any moment in time. So pretty much I'm like, this is going to be a damn good fight. But then you got Errol Spence, the truth, the guy that can switch it up on the go. He's shown us that he can dig down and find that deep power that most don't have. You know what I mean? I'm talking about the Shawn Porter fight late. You know, he can dig deep, he can fight, he can box, he can do it all. This is going to be a damn good fight. How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Spence, but like you said, I'm just really excited to see the fight. You know, Danny Garcia has underrated power. So obviously we know about, you know, his left hook, you know, from the Amir Khan fight when he knocked him out as a junior welterweight. But if you talk to Keith Thurman will tell you that, you know, Danny Garcia hits a lot harder than Shawn Porter. And perhaps that could come into play. And people forget about that car accident that Errol Spence had. He hasn't fought since. So I think he suffered a broken jaw, you know, during that crash last October. So it'll be interesting to see what he can take, see if he's truly recovered from the accident. And Danny is going to be targeting that jaw all night to see if he can crack it. So that's one, you know, interesting storyline that's going to be a part of this fight. I actually see Errol. He's in the best shape of his life. You know, for like Errol said, you know, for a while he kind of it wasn't that he lost focus in boxing. He's eating too much. He's letting himself blow up in weight. Now he's back into the best shape. I've never seen Errol in better shape, other than, you know, prior to the Chris Algieri fight, Leonard Bundu, Phil LaGreco. That was the Spence that was like literally like 100% in shape. And even the version of Errol that we saw against Shawn Porter, you know, was extremely dehydrated. You know, coming to the weigh-in and whatnot, and wasn't in the best shape. You know, had to sit in the sauna for a while just to lose the weight to make 147. This version of Errol Spence is going to be a threat. If Spence can stop Danny Garcia, maybe in the late rounds, that's going to send a message to the rest of the welterweight division that, you know, he's a threat, because no one has ever done that to Danny Garcia. If Errol does that, that sends a message to the rest of the welterweight division, even sends a message to Bud Crawford, you know, that, you know, Errol saying, I'm the real deal. And I can't wait to see this fight. What do you think?
Well, I'm looking very forward to this fight, man. I'm even trying to see when they go. Things getting a little crazy down there in Dallas and Houston right now. So, but my thoughts on the fighter like this, man. When you get into this situation right here of this fight, you start thinking about the Roberto Duran's, Sugar Ray Leonard, you know, that's my thought process, that this is going to be an absolute war. And we might get a sequel to this thing as well, too, if they give us 12 intense rounds. Seriously, because if Errol would get a rematch with anybody, it would probably be Danny if something was to occur where Danny won the fight. You know what I mean? Because the thing is, I really believe in Danny Swift Garcia in this fight because his experience. He's had these big championship nights. You know what I mean? Do you know he
Yeah.
was on the undercard for Canelo and Mayweather? So he was the fight before the Mayweather fight. So he already knows how to be on a monster big stage like this where there's so much on the line. You know what I mean? And he proved the world wrong with Matisse, proved the world wrong with Khan. And that's the thing that you have to put on the bulletin board, that Danny Garcia has been a modern day Rocky Balboa somewhat of the welterweight division, but much better than Rocky. Rocky took way too many punches. Danny don't take that many punches. So pretty much Danny in that left hook, and the great story of him and Angel and how Angel pushes him so hard. Man, it would be fun to see Danny Garcia win this fight, and we set up a second fight between him and Arrow. We go to Philly for that one, and pretty much, so legends can do legendary things. You know what I mean? But we'll see how it goes. I know that a lot of people are probably going to be betting hard on Errol Spence in this fight, but I can tell you too that the late money will come in on Danny Garcia because everybody loves to bet a dog. That's simple.
And not to mention Sylvester Stallone and Rocky Balboa's anabolic steroid use. Brought to you by Jarrell Miller Industries.
All right, so that's Spence DSG. We got that out the way. Now, quick, is Teofimo the next big crossover star? Not just the next big star in boxing. I'm talking about crossover where we'll see in movies, TV shows, commercials, because you notice you never see boxers on TV shows or commercials as much anymore. That used to be like the thing in the 90s. I was watching Fresh Prince the other day. They got one episode with Evander. Next, they got an episode the next year with Riddick Bowe. So, pretty much I'm like, can he make that transition to being a big crossover star like Floyd, be it Dancing in Stars, where people who don't even watch boxing know exactly who you are? Do you think this can occur with Teofimo Lopez?
Absolutely. He has the personality. That was put on display during his little video after he, got his ring championship belt in the mail. He was out there just dancing around with it. Yeah, he has the personality. I think that would be something that would benefit him a lot. Would be, appearing in maybe, a short episode, maybe being a bodyguard. Who knows? I mean, I think that the future, the ceiling is the limit for Teofimo. Well, I say the sky is not the ceiling, but the sky is the limit. And I think Teofimo would be good in that role.
All right. Well, okay. So I kind of want to hear something like that, but man, I'm telling you, man, and I feel like it's going to happen because, the last 2 years he fought on Heisman night. You know what I mean? He's not going to fight on Heisman night this year because Heisman's going to be virtual, but that was pretty fun. Him winning those fights, then jumping out with the Kyler Murray jersey on, a Joe Burrow jersey on, and he brought those guys some good luck. They were both #1 picks after that as well, too. So, that's what I'm talking about, that those are the things that catches people's eyes and things of that nature. So I do feel the same way that Teofimo can be a big crossover star. And with the boost of ESPN being behind you as well, too, it's really helping out a lot more of these boxers get places that they probably wouldn't be at if they were with other promotions, because the other promotions are boxing, and some more boxing. But as you can see, guys like Deontay Wilder have became crossover stars as well, too. He was doing the mask thing and all that good stuff. I even hear on football announcers saying, oh, that power hit him with a powerful right hook just like Deontay Wilder. So that pretty much they know who he is and they know what time it is. So that's why boxing needs to understand how important it is to the whole basis of just pop culture in general. You know what I mean? Boxers have always been seen as the most sellable athlete, in my opinion, because they're boxing, they're doing warrior stuff, and pretty much boxing is different from every other sport. You don't play boxing, as we always like to say.
Absolutely. Agree with you there. And Another thing is, the last time I can really remember a boxer being in a commercial was Triple G for Apple, for the Apple Watch. But it was awkward because most people, I would say, boxing fans were like, "Oh yeah, that's Triple G." But some kid, watching Nickelodeon, it's like, okay, here's this guy just moving his arms around. Okay, what's his name? They didn't even mention his name in the whole commercial. It's just some guy just punching and buy an Apple Watch. Okay, cool. It like a lot of people criticized, Golovkin because he wasn't a household name, but those commercials didn't do anything for him, in my opinion, because if you're trying to get your name out there, you got at least got to get your name on the screen. But that's just something that came up in my mind.
I got you. I feel. I totally feel, bro. No worries with that. So, what do I want to ask you? So, pretty much, I have a whole list of questions to ask you right here. I just wanted to act like I memorized it. So, Shakur Stevenson, what are your thoughts on him?
Incredible. I had a chance to watch him spar. I'd say 2018. It was right before the Terence Crawford Jeff Horn fight. So Terence was in the gym in Colorado Springs, training to take on Horn. Shakur was actually sparring Richardson Hitchens, I believe. Michaela Mayer was there. Who else? Maurice Hooker was there. Right before he won his first title. He's incredible. I see him becoming a superstar, plain and simple. The kid, he's a great personality. Similar to Mayweather. He has that personality. I'm not going to go as far as some pundits who say, "Oh yeah, he's better than Floyd at this point as a fighter." Get out of here! Come on, don't prop him up like that. I mean, once you give that kid the impression that he's better than somebody, especially someone like Mayweather, he's going to actually believe it. He's actually going to think he's better than Floyd. And, I'm not going to put that on him, but I will say he's just as marketable as Mayweather at this point. And to see him, training, being a trainer over the weekend, that was pretty cool to see. And to see him at work inside the gym and seeing how hard he works and, the grit that he shows as a fighter. I see him doing great things, and I'm excited to see where his future goes.
Man, my thoughts on Shakur Stevenson is box office. He's a great fighter, and he's actually stepping into a great era as well, too, of other big time smaller fighters as well. The Ryan Garcias of the world, Tank Davis, also Devin Haney. So these fights, they could be their own big four. You know what I mean? They can be their own Fab Four. That's what I called the group of Garcia, Lopez, Haney, and Davis is the Fab Four, and they can add him in as the Fab Five if they want to, because thing is, it only matters if you guys all fight each other. That's the whole thing, in my opinion. But I'm not rushing these kids, though. I talk to fans, I want it right now. Don't be like that commercial where you just want your money right now. You don't want it right now. We just put it on the oven. We just put it in the oven. You don't want it you don't want it this quickly. You want these guys to season themselves, put themselves in those warrior situations, and keep selling themselves and keep selling the image and the brand. They have to keep selling the brand. And you guys always want these fights right now. You don't want to stop people short, because that's what killed Diego. I'm sorry, what killed Diego Corrales, but that's what kind of shortened Diego Corrales' career in a sense. Taking that Floyd fight so early in his career that he thought he was so ready for, and he could have waited maybe a year or so, and it could have maybe been a closer fight. But regardless of anything, Floyd was leagues and levels ahead of him anyway, and just like everybody else in that weight class at 126 as well too, and 130. So that's my thing right there. Don't rush this fight, because then you'll see that maybe Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia could be a mismatch. You feel what I'm saying? Or you can see T.O. and Tank maybe be a mismatch. So you want to have these fights get some more, bake it some more, you know what I mean? Until it's all the way done and it looks good, and they got 500, 600, 700 media members fighting over who's going to get the credentials for this fight. You know what I mean? It's where it becomes an event where you talked about it earlier. Trinidad De La Hoya. That was like the Super Bowl of boxing. Seriously. Everybody stopped everything they were doing at 6 o'clock that night. There was a big SEC football game on that night. It didn't matter because everybody wanted to see if De La Hoya could beat the Puerto Rican Trinidad. They were both undefeated, but it was a fight that was 5 years in the making. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
you gotta, that's how you build fights up. That's how you make all the big money on the fight. That's my opinion. That's what I'm saying.
Especially in this era of boxing, you know, when there are so many different networks, like you said, you got DAZN, you got ESPN, Top Rank, Matchroom, etc. And you know the corporate side of the sport too. You know, kind of begs. I wouldn't say begs, but you know, it kind of asks for all these fights to be marinated because no one wants to lose money. And no one wants to lose money too early. So you allow these fighters to, like you said, to build up their names, marinate the fight, cook the cookies in the oven, bake it up a little bit, and wait for the fans to be really, really, really pumped up for the fight. And then finally, you know, after a couple years of waiting, or in the Mayweather Pacquiao example, they waited like about 6 years to make that fight. And it made the most money of any fight in history.
And then all the excuses can come afterwards. But before the fight, everybody was 50-50 split. And it's that simple. That's how you want it to be. That's how you sell boxing matches. Simple as plain. Some of these fights do need to happen right away, but that's because these guys are in their 30s. You know what I mean? But when you're in your early 20s, take your time. Take your time. You know what I mean? It's okay. I think Canelo kind of put this pressure on the rest of these guys because he took on so many great fights early, but the guy's been fighting since he was 16. So that's a different bag of things. You know what I mean? That's a whole different element, you know? So it is what it is. Let's move on. Let's talk about who's the best heavyweight prospect right now, in your opinion.
Best heavyweight prospect? I'm not. I haven't been following the heavyweights too much right now, but I would say Daniel Dubois. You know, I think Daniel Dubois is a solid prospect. But you know, another one that comes to mind is Ivan Ditchko, and you know, Ivan hasn't had many fights. You know, he's had some trouble, you know, getting fights, especially you know with COVID. He got I think he got 2 bronze medals in the Olympics. He actually lost to Anthony Joshua. I think that was back in 2012. I could be wrong about that. I actually was there for his pro debut. I was actually producing at the time for Roy Jones Promotions. I think that, you know, Ivan Ditchko could be, you know, a good fighter coming up through the ranks. The interesting thing about Ivan is that I told him, you know, during our production meeting that he literally looks like a bald Vitaly Klitschko. And they translated that for me, and he laughed. So I mean, he looks like a bald Klitschko from Kazakhstan. But you know, as far as the best prospect right now, I think Daniel Dubois would be my pick.
All right, I like that pick too. Daniel Dubois is a really good fighter, and the Joe Joyce fight is going to really test him very well moving forward. But a guy that I like a lot, nobody mentions him that much because he had some issues with the roids and everything like that. And pretty much he is working his way back into things, and he's trained by Virgil as well too, Ward's trainer. And that's going to be Tony Yoka, the 2016 gold medalist. And Tony's been working it out for months now. He's not really fighting here, but he's fighting in France, and he's doing some good things with that. I think that he can fight. I think he can stick up there with the best of them. I think they're just kind of scared to make big fights happen with him because they don't know if he's going to be able to be, you know, pass tests and things of that nature. I guess that's the fear, but I think that he's totally cleared from that, and I just think now that's an excuse. So Tony Yoka, to me, is a guy that you really need to start thinking about, because there's other heavyweights from that Olympics that are overhyped, that we saw that are good, but when you throw them in there with somebody who was a really good fighter, or a guy who wasn't going to just go out like that, they don't look that good. Let me give you a great example, and I'm a fan of his too as well. F.A. When F.A. fought a few years back, he had a guy that was there for the taking. Literally, you stepped on his neck, but you let your foot off just a little bit, and then you almost lost the fight, because he actually hit him with the hardest punch of the night, in my opinion. And that was crazy to see him get knocked down like that, because damn near it looked like he was going to get knocked out when that happened. But he was able to recover and finish the fight, because he was fighting against a guy that was literally in there. They thought he was in there for the check, but really he just had bad trainers. And that was obvious on PBC when they were showing the corner talks and things of that nature. So if he had better training, then this might have been a different night. So my thing is like this. Tony Yoka is a guy that we should be seeing in the next year or two, fighting against the bigger prospects and things of that nature, and pretty much getting a chance at that title as well too, because he can help sell a fight as well too. And I guess they want to do the Euro takeover once again, but we ain't up for that though right now. I can't spend another 10 years watching fights, seeing the heavyweight division be irrelevant. We got to make sure that this division becomes relevant again.
And we got to ensure that the best fight the best. And honestly, I wouldn't mind to see the third fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. That's another fight. I still would like to see that fight. But, you know, Wilder's behavior recently has been a little bit concerning, to say the least. Yeah, I guess that's a topic that we can also talk about a little bit. And, you know, Anthony Joshua's got his fight with Kubrat Pulev, which, you know, is not a good fight. It's not a good fight. And Joshua's going to clean him out and focus on possibly maybe an undisputed fight with Fury. But I think that Wilder's lawsuit to get the third fight, I think it might happen, because, you know, the reason why the fight couldn't happen was because of COVID. They couldn't make the third fight because of COVID. So it's not his fault that the fight wasn't made. So I have a feeling that the third fight with Fury and Wilder will come first.
I totally agree. And I think what happens here is that pretty much it's demanded. It has to happen, because the thing is, you know, Wilder didn't have to give him a rematch, and he did. And I think that you need to be an honorable man and give that third fight up, because that was already agreed upon. And I know everybody feels like it was convincing, but you know what? What if we did this? What if the ref said, I'm waiving off the fight? Do you get a rematch, Tyson? Maybe, maybe not. But the thing is, at the end of the day, you have to honor your word, in my opinion. And that's it. That's just that simple. But people like, I took the 3 Bradleys and Pacquiao's. Well, Bradley and Pacquiao isn't as exciting as Wilder and Fury, in my opinion. And I think the third one would be explosive and fun to watch. All right. Last subject, and I know this is a fun one, because you actually were one of the first people to break this story as well too. But this fight seems like it's gonna happen. Roy Jones Jr., Mike Tyson exhibition. You were one of the first people I saw put that out there. How do you feel about that?
Oh man, I don't know. I got a mixed bag about it. I'm actually going to take Roy Jones to beat him. So that's good. That's going to be me. I think, Tyson admitted not too long ago, I think about a month ago, that, after that, training video that he did, him just punching the bag, he literally couldn't get out of bed for a week. Now, I think that if we're talking about I think Roy is going to try to outbox him. And I think that he'll be successful in doing so. Mike hasn't fought in 14 years. I think he had an exhibition fight with Corey Sanders back in 2006. And, training is one thing, fighting is another thing. And, Roy he hasn't been active, but he hasn't been as inactive as Mike Tyson. So I think on fight night, it's going to be Roy trying to outbox. I don't think it's going to be as exciting as people think. But yeah, I think Roy's going to get the win. Maybe Tyson lands a big shot. You never know. You never know in boxing. It doesn't matter whether the guys are old or young. There's still a chance that there's still a puncher's chance in Tyson that he could end the fight. But yeah, I see Roy winning, and I wish fans would be there. But they tried moving the fight to Texas, but Mike had the last word, and he wants to fight in California. And the Cali Health Department, with COVID and all that, looks like they're not going to have any fans there, no media. So it's going to be a pretty lonely event, which is unfortunate.
All right. And my prediction is that pretty much get to the finish, both of y'all, because y'all both really are old. And pretty much, this was a dream fight from 20 years ago happening now. So I think that whatever charity that they're doing this for, they're going to be able to, pretty much make them a lot of money on that night. And you know what? I'm just ready to be entertained. I'm not even going to pick a winner here. I'm just want to be entertained and have a good little chuckle and things like that. That's all. That's it. And that's all. So pretty much, any last words, Ryan? I know you're getting tired, man. I see you, man. I know that camera.
Oh, no, you're good. I'm going to probably get some breakfast or something. Yeah, I'm trying to hang in there. Yeah, I got my friends here. Got cream and ice and cream. Hello, guys. What's up?
What's up?
Yeah, yep. But yeah, that's it, man. Just thank you so much for the time. Sorry that I joined a little late, but really glad that I was able to join the show. And it's going to be another big day for boxing stories, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you at a fight again. I know we met at the Canelo Jacobs fight, so that was a fun night.
Yeah, it was a fun night, and you guys always know Ryan has the actual game intact that will tell you how these legends match up against each other.
Yes, sir.
He hurt my feelings that night. We put Marvin. What did we do? We put Marvin Hagler against Sugar Ray Robinson. It was a bloodbath.
Yeah, it was.
Hagler knocked him down 6 times. So
yeah, it was crazy. And then of course, what was it? The fight between Canelo and Jacobs was supposed to be close, and one judge had it really wide, and it was and the other had it close. I love it. I was like, yes.
Yeah. And then also, you guys might get mad about this. A lot of people, I don't know about that one, but he put up a prime Oscar must-see TV Oscar against must-see TV Floyd, and Oscar edged him out and won the fight, 115, 113, 115, 113. But Floyd did get a judge. But the thing was, Oscar won the split decision this time. Crazy.
Yeah. It was crazy. Actually, I think late the fight, Floyd dropped Oscar, and then Oscar came back and dropped him in the last round. So it was crazy. Would have been nice. Would have been nice to see. If it was prime for prime.
Right. So if you guys need somebody to simulate a great fight for you, just ask Ryan O'Hara.
I still have. Actually, I was using that yesterday, so I'm gonna go back on it later today and just have some fun. Make a fighter with 100% punching and power, and put him up against a guy with no chin. We'll see how long the other guy lasts.
All right. Give us the results on Twitter.
You got it.
Right. That's another episode of Big Wave Boxing, and that's a wrap. I'm your host, Pop DiBiase, and I am gone.
See you later. Thank you.
This is a Prime Wave Media production.